welcome to kindergarten. My name is Teresa Culp, and I am the kindergarten teacher here at CCS. We are so sad that you aren't able to join us in person, and some of my video obviously will not have the students in it, as I am recording this on a PD day or /snow day. What you've just seen is just I gave you a little glimpse at just what the environment looks like as you come down the hall and into our classroom. So this is your welcome to kindergarten, and let's get started. So in order to get started, I like to just give you kind of that pedagogy of how I teach. And this pedagogy of how I teach, it evolves and it grows and it gets refined as the more experiences you have of teaching. So when you come out of Teachers College, you're definitely not going to have a firm set pedagogy. You'll have ideas and idealisms, but it might not be permanent, which is good because that makes you a good teacher if you can be flexible and ebb and flow. So on the screen in front of you, you see that I have a whole bunch of points on my pedagogy of teaching. So students are competent and curious. Students need to be able to experience their learning. The environment, it reflects or acts as the third teacher. The two at the bottom, I think, are probably one of my most important pedagogies. Children's voices should always be heard and listened to. So a student is telling you something. When they are talking, they're telling you something. Whether that is how they're feeling, what's happening at home, what they're learning, they are trying to get across something that is important to them. And if you do not listen to them, you are not honoring them as a learner and as a student. And the last one is children learn while they play and in play. If you want to know if a student knows how to do something, you do not give them a test. You let them go, you put the materials in your environment that will support their learning, and you let them play with the materials. And they will show you exactly what they know and the depth of what they know when they do it on their own in their play. It is pretty amazing. So the structure of our day looks very different than the structure of a grade 1 or 2 or grade 8 day. We ebb and flow through the day in all different types of play scenarios. What you see in these pictures here reflect more of a structured play. So they're using materials to manipulate, to build, because we're focusing on 2D shapes. In one of the pictures, the students are standing there and they're on a word hunt. And so they're playing in more of a structure. They have a task that they have to do, and they're fulfilling it through a play type scenario. The girls that are writing at the bench are actually observing a caterpillar turned into a chrysalis in our classroom, and they're observing and they're chatting to each other about what will happen, and they're writing their observations down and they're collaborating. We spend a lot of time outside in kindergarten in our play, doing activities, structured, unstructured. The outside environment is the most natural environment for students to see themselves as learners, to learn to take risks, and they're not confined by walls, and they're more relaxed. And they just, there's just a different atmosphere when you are outside teaching. I just captured a few pictures here of over the years of different things that we do. We will do our morning meeting outside. We just allow that freedom to play with the equipment. Students, a big thing in kindergarten is learning how to do the monkey bars, and the sense of accomplishment that they have when they're able to do that. And then we do silly days, like we had a theme day where a water day, and we all wore our bathing suits and did water activities outside. So, teaching doesn't necessarily need a pencil, a paper. It doesn't necessarily need a desk. It doesn't necessarily need a classroom. Learning can happen anywhere. I think the most learning that those little boys in the sandbox did, they learned how to play together in that sandbox. And that transferred into our classroom, which was huge. We spend a lot of time outside just observing God's creation, and that is pretty amazing too, to watch the students, to see the differences in God's creation through the seasons, and being able to observe something beyond their narrow scope of themselves. And seeing the world around them. And that becomes with maturity and spending time outside, having adults just give them language and just to point things out where they go, oh, I didn't know that. So that's a very big part of our program here, is outside learning. As some of the other teachers have probably said in their videos, if I'm not the first one that you're watching, we do a morning meeting each day in all of our classrooms. And in the past, Rachel Gilles, who is the teacher you see in this picture, we will share our morning meeting. So she teaches grade 1, 2, and I teach kindergarten, and we do 2 mornings a week pre-COVID, where we spend time, both our classes spend time outside or in the gym together. We set up provocations, we allow free play, and just to build community with all of our students, because every other year our students are together in a class. So to keep those relationships active, we often spend time each morning together twice a week. So what Rachel is showing you is our morning meeting. So how we do it together will be different than how we do it in our own classrooms. But it's always a time to come together. It's a time to share. It's a time to highlight things. In kindergarten, I have a star of the day, so every day somebody gets to be highlighted. We sing a special song for them. They help us with our morning message. We incorporate literacy. We do math. We have little rhymes we do together, and we also then spend time in prayer. And we have started what we call a popcorn prayer, and that in Miss Culp, that's what the children call me. I start the prayer, and then they pray. We have gotten to the point now where they will pray out loud for things that are on their mind or things that are bothering them, or praise celebrations. And it's pretty darn cute to watch these little people pray out loud in front of one another, which is an amazing feat. Like, that requires a lot of self-confidence, because praying as adults in front of other people out loud, it makes you very vulnerable. So for them, it also creates vulnerability as little people. So there has to be a lot of trust in our environment, a lot of respect for each other in our environment. Our classroom has to cultivate those things before we start. So I've just started that now, kind of like December, January. So until then, I have done all the praying, and then it's kind of like that guide, and then I have given them then the tools for how to pray, and they have taken it away. So it's been pretty amazing to watch. In the pictures on this page, you see a bunch of different examples of cultivating relationships. So there's a picture of all the students with their masks on, and Mr. Verberg is sitting in the chair, and he is inspiring them to imagine why a gingerbread man would eat pieces out of his cucumber. And this was part of our gingerbread man escape from kindergarten and making traps. So that was part of that. So Mr. Verberg got involved, and just having the principal come in just is another piece of cultivating different relationships in our school. The picture framed with black, you see two girls and they have a paper chain between them, and they decided they were best friends, so they have to stay far apart, so they decided that they would handcuff each other to be handcuffed to each other. So that was just a very cute way of how they're cultivating their relationship. And this happens on a daily basis here at CCS, and something that's very important to us as staff and students and to our families. Another important part of CCS and how we teach here at CCS, not just in kindergarten but all around, is being able to spend time with other students in different classes, having shared experiences, doing shared activities to build community within the whole school. Unfortunately, this year with COVID, those things have not been able to happen in the same way, but once we can, it is definitely a big component of our teaching. And as you see from a couple of the pictures, example of reading buddies here, and reading with grade 1, 2s as well. So this is another piece of our philosophy of teaching and building community and building just a community of believers where we all respect and love one another for who we are. These pictures of play just show how important and how valuable play is within kindergarten in self-regulation, in well-being, in belonging and contributing. It's those shared experience. It's being proud of something that you're making. It's you'd see the boys in the picture with the red blocks. They created a wall for their school, and then they're playing school behind it. And there, now you're starting to see where their learning is happening on the board, what they're actually learning in the class. They're applying it in their play. The girls are painting in the special instruments that they made. Again, we're valuing the things that they're making and making space for them in our classroom for them to experiment and experience different types of play. A lot of my teaching comes from an inquiry stance where the children experience the learning. So in this slide, it's a very simple example of how we're talking about snow. And so we were learning like the word precipitation and what that meant. So we watched a little 1-minute video, and then there's 4 pieces of paper that had the 4 types of precipitation, and their job was to go around to each paper, which was in different places in the room, and to draw a representation of that precipitation. From there, we hang them up on the wall for them to look at, and then we start adding pieces of what we're talking about. So right now, of course, we're talking about snow. So then we went outside and we had a challenge of looking for individual snowflakes. And from there, we're going to talk about the shape of snowflakes and where does snow come from, and what and how does God create snow, and that type of thing. So that's a huge part of our kindergarten pedagogy here.
Oh, what is that? Wow. He checked out both traps.
So you might wonder how God fits into our curriculum and our program. And It is so important to give students, or all children, that foundational piece of creating their own faith. So it's that the simplicity of knowledge and how to live our lives and the expectations we have of them that start to cultivate those feelings and that belief of who God is and who He is to them. And that spiritual maturity is just as important as physical maturity, emotional maturity. I spend a lot of time in kindergarten focusing on the fruit of the Spirit, and we name that fruit of the Spirit. And when we see it in action in our environment, we're using the words. We pray all the time. We pray for each other. We pray for what's happening in our community. Sometimes when we're problem solving, we're using the idea of forgiveness. We are using the words grace and mercy. We are using the word justice and consequences. We focus on Bible stories for a certain period of time, sometimes a week, sometimes a month, depending on the story, because it's really important for me as a teacher to make sure that those connections are being made to the student and their lives. So just as an example, a fun example of what we did when we were talking about Moses and the Red Sea. And we were talking about Moses' life and God's plan for Moses' life. And we'll continue talking about that. We're not done with that. But we talked about the Red Sea and how strong God had to be, how amazing He was to be able to move water. And so we did a little experiment, and we wondered I'm not sure if you can read it at the bottom. It says, we were wondering if we were strong enough to part the Red Sea. Were we stronger than God? And each child was able to say, nope, I am not stronger than God. That's pretty powerful for their little minds. On the next slide, I'm going to just show you an example of praise and worship that happens in our classroom.
Okay, everyone. So the last part that I just want to talk about quickly is the environment and how it's set up for students to be successful and to excel in the classroom. So the biggest thing is, if you have it on your shelves, it should be able to, students should be able to access it. So if you do not want students to access it, do not put it on your shelves. So I will just go over here for a minute. So these are all pieces that are out in our classroom, and these pieces are blocks and stuff. Anything that is on these shelves, they're able to access. There is the loft. Anything that's in the loft is accessible, and they just know that the rule is only 2 people are allowed at a time. Here again, shelves of toys that they have access to. They can, whenever it's activity time, they're more than welcome. Here, which it looks kind of like a big giant mess, is lots of different stuff to be able to make creations with. They also have their own space. And here, we honor what they do, therefore we want their stuff can be kept in their cubbies. As you see on the top, there is a bunch of creations on the go. They are making backpacks and picnic packs and baskets to deliver stuff. So that's what they're working on right now. So we honor that, and we keep their stuff, and they come back to it, and they're more than welcome to play with it again. Again, whatever I have on my shelves are for them, so they can access any of these materials at any time. This year it does look different because of COVID, so we do have them in different groups. All the materials are the same. They just have to access the materials for their color group. The last thing that I just want to talk about is what's on my walls. What's on my walls is important as far as it has to be relevant for the students. So you see here our birthdays. Birthdays are a huge piece of being in kindergarten. So we celebrate birthdays. and in our classroom, and we want to know when our friends' birthdays are. So as you can see, the star is what month we're on, so the students know whose birthday. And of course, they had a piece in creating our sign. So you see they have done all the writing, they have done all the decorating, to showcase that these pictures mean something. They're giving a title to what this is. Again, here is our Jellyphonics frieze, and it's always up for students to see and access. As well, on our walls here, we created our own alphabet outside with nature, and the kids also created numbers, our number anchor charts for 1 to 10, representing it in different ways. Up in the loft are pictures of our families, so those are on our walls. Our families are very, very important to us, and sometimes we just need to see our families and spend time with them. And so students will go up there and they'll talk to their families, or they'll bring their friends up and talk to their friends about their families. So that's very important to us too. This year we are doing an all about me book. So underneath this page is different pages from different months, highlighting different aspects of who we are. So this month was our friends. We wanted to celebrate our friends for Valentine's Day. So therefore we did this picture for our book, and each month we do a different all about me aspect. So next month will be pets. That type of thing. So that's what we're showcasing, their work. That's the most important. It's their work. It's meaningful to them. They go up there all the time. They talk to their friends about what they've made and what they've drawn. It also shows parents at the end of the year what they've accomplished. Up here are our calendars. So this year we did calendar. I don't always do calendar. This year we're very SK heavy, so I did calendar just to show students like it's like a reflection of our day, I guess. So each day reflects, shows pictures of what we've been doing and what we've been learning. It helps them reflect a little bit on their learning as well to take home. It's created for them and by them. So that is very important too. And so that's the wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please ask questions of Ray and myself if you would like more clarification on how kindergarten works here at CCS. I hope you enjoyed your virtual visit. I hope that we'll have the opportunity to talk face-to-face sometime.